Welcome back, you over 400 savages, to the Hat and Beard Show. Today we'll be discussing the coaching carousel in the NFL gets even heavier when one of my personal favorite coaches for one of my favorite teams was abruptly fired in a just insane turn of events. The Tennessee Titans, after 6 years, parted ways with their head coach, Mike Vrabel, who unjustly, in my opinion, was unceremoniously let go. There are a lot of keys to look at, a lot of evidence that was leading up to this that I think told the tale of what was going to happen, as well as we're going to draw comparisons to what might be the script for a potential termination of our beloved Motor City Dan Campbell if things were to go south in the future. We will discuss that. Let's get into it, guys.
We're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Hey, welcome back, Guy. I appreciate you tuning in for tonight's episode of the Hat and Beard Show. We're going to be quick and dirty tonight, just the way your mom likes it. Today, the NFL world was shocked and rattled when the Tennessee Titans abruptly and unceremoniously fired head coach Mike Vrabel after 6 seasons with the Tennessee Titans, 3 of which he made the playoffs, even one time reaching the AFC Championship game, as well as in 2021 being named the AP Coach of the Year. The Tennessee Titans snipped their connection with Mike Vrabel. There's a lot of things that kind of led into this, you guys, namely the change in general management. They had a different GM that hired Mike Vrabel 6 years ago, and last year, January 2023, they hired Ran Carthon as their new general manager. And although things were good on the surface level with the Tennessee Titans, a lot of changes have been happening to the organization. Namely, it started back really when A.J. Brown was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, the idea then was that the market cap was too high for wide receivers. They didn't want to spend the money on him. Also, with Derrick Henry's contract extension that was looming, Derrick Henry subsequently seemingly announced his departure from Tennessee at the end of Week 18, if not maybe his upright retirement. With a physical running style that Derrick Henry has put on, I don't think that he's necessarily lost a step. I think he's just as productive, especially if you put him behind like a defensive or an offensive line, like say the Lions or the Rams, maybe even if New England comes calling for Derrick Henry's services. I don't think Derrick Henry's as washed as many 30-year-old running backs are projected to be, but Derrick Henry is seemingly out at Tennessee. Mike Vrabel, the change in general management, you've seen the writing on the wall. Departure of A.J. Brown, the drafting of your franchise quarterback under your new general management with the 33rd pick in the draft being Will I Put Mayonnaise in My Coffee Levis. And unfortunately, the leash just got shorter and shorter on Mike Vrabel. 2 less than stellar seasons, although winning 7 games last year and then 6 games this year isn't awful, considering the roster that you were rolling out there for Mike Vrabel to try and contend with. You had an over-the-hill Ryan Tannehill, a rookie quarterback Will Levis still trying to learn the speed of the game, for whatever is valued there, Malik Willis is on the roster, who was at one point projected to be the number 2 pick in the draft by the Detroit Lions. And really your only weapon is, unfortunately, contradicting myself earlier, a 30-year-old aging Derrick Henry who runs with an incredibly physical running style. And although I stated that I don't think he's hit his wall, when you play the position the way Derrick Henry plays the position, and you're hitting 30 years old in the NFL, you don't know. Nobody knows when that wall's coming. It could be in training camp. It could be another 4 years down the road. I like Derrick Henry's running style. I am a physical type running back fan myself. But you had no wide receivers to throw to. Treylon Burks, although was supposed to be brought in to be the replacement for A.J. Brown, really hasn't been that guy, especially when you compare him to who he was supposed to be replacing in A.J. Brown. Do I think the Tennessee Titans screwed up in letting A.J. Brown go? I really do, especially when you look at the trend in the NFL with pairing young and developing wide receiver or quarterbacks with a hyper-talented wide receiver, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Unfortunately, I guess you could say JF1 and DJ Moore, although I just don't think JF1's that good of a quarterback. So the Tennessee Titans missed out on a golden opportunity to keep A.J. Brown in-house, and then, as they did this last year, draft your future quarterback with Will Levis and have a superstar wide receiver for him to throw to and develop with under that rookie contract that the quarterback would have been on. The Titans kind of set Mike Vrabel up for failure. I don't agree with it. I like Mike Vrabel. I did a whole video on it, on Mike Vrabel and DeMeco Ryans and MCDC last year called The Rise of the Player Coach, where I really showcased how the mentality of those three men are the new age type coaches in the NFL, in my humble opinion. I don't think they should have fired Mike Vrabel. I just think this is Rand Carthen showing his, I guess, wanting to have it his way. It's going to be his team. It's going to be his view of the future is what the Tennessee Titans are going to be striving for, and Mike Vrabel didn't fit that. It's just kind of how the NFL is a business. Do I agree with it? No. Do I think Mike Vrabel will land on his feet? I think Mike Vrabel instantly becomes the top available coaching talent for any organization, surpassing guys like Ben Johnson, who might end up in Tennessee. I think Mike Vrabel, though, we've already seen it, guys. Everyone's seen the writing on the wall. No one will be surprised if Mike Vrabel ends up as the New England Patriots' next head coach. He's like a second son there, won Super Bowls there, and his coaching style translates to the New England way. So I'm pretty sure you'll see that if the New England Patriots decide to part ways with Bill Belichick, that Mike Vrabel is probably on the short list, and no one will be surprised if and when he is hired as the New England Patriots' next head coach. So what kind of comparisons can we draw to the Mike Vrabel firing and the hypothetical future of Dan Campbell if things were to go south for him moving forward? Well, Dan Campbell's in the third year of a rebuild. He's finally reached the playoffs and won an NFC North title in his third year. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. However, the NFL is a business, and when you really look at it, Dan Campbell is not a Brad Holmes hire. Sheila Hamp hired Dan Campbell. Do I think the relationship between Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes is different than Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthen? Yes, I do, right now. You see them both really being huge fans of each other, and an ongoing joke that started with, I believe, Brad Holmes wearing a Dan Campbell shirt, then Dan Campbell wearing a shirt of Brad Holmes wearing a Dan Campbell shirt, and so on and so forth exponentially to where it's now just getting absolutely out of hand. We as the Lions fandom truly do love it. However, Dan Campbell's not the Brad Holmes hire. Brad Holmes could have an entirely different view of the trajectory of the team in which he wants to take it. Right now, they are harmonious and in sync. Right now, things seem to go really, really well. If you came down to a short end of the stick, I'm pretty sure Brad Holmes would end up winning that argument because he's put the talent on the field that Motor City Dan Campbell and his coaching staff have to build around. Other similarities I would like to point out is Amon-Ra St. Brown's contract's coming up, and I really hope the Lions don't treat him the way that the Titans treated A.J. Brown. Amon-Ra is a massive talent here in Detroit. The synchronicity that he has in the offense, the understanding of where he needs to be on the field for our offensive scheme is outstanding, and he's a fan favorite. The guy works harder than anybody in the NFL. You gotta love that type of attitude, especially here in Motor City. You know, I'm worried that all the pieces are starting to line up for the Lions to potentially replicate the disaster that's going on in Tennessee. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I think that, if you look at some similarities, yes, Brad Holmes and Motor City Dan Campbell came in and changed the quarterback right out, traded him for arguably one of the best deals in modern era of the NFL, just like the Titans did with Marcus Mariota. They moved on from him. They didn't really get much for him like the Lions were able to get out of Matt Stafford. But Marcus Mariota isn't on a potential Hall of Fame trajectory career the way Matt Stafford could potentially have been, although he is getting a little aged. The weapons he has to throw to, he could pad his stats and become the ultimate pad Stafford and just continue to just blow up the records a little bit to argue his way into the Hall of Fame. However, with the NFL's modern retelling of the Hall of Fame credentials being, can you tell the story of the NFL without this guy? Yeah, I think you can tell the story of the NFL without Matt Stafford. That's neither here nor there. I want to know what you guys think. If things go the way the Mike Vrabel train, the next 3 years are really, really good for the Lions and Motor City Dan Campbell. You see some coordinators get pieced out and given their opportunity, and a small tree being branched out of Motor City Dan Campbell's coaching tree. subsequently the Sean Payton coaching tree. But say we make the playoffs the next 3 years, reach an NFC title game at some point in those 3 years. Maybe we don't quite get to the Super Bowl. Obviously, if we win a Super Bowl, Dan Campbell gets a lifetime contract in Detroit. But say, hypothetically, things go south over the next 3 years. Jared Goff falls off in the last year of his contract. We don't re-sign him, and we have to go to a young talent who isn't ready to play yet. Maybe Hendon Hooker's the answer. Maybe we have to draft a guy in the next coming year or so. Maybe we go after a free agent who's a little bit under the radar, kind of like the Titans did with Ryan Tannehill, and get the maximum out of an aging, talented quarterback. You have the wide receiver contract, Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown, both comparative, in their production. Both are going to, Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to need a hefty contract extension. We're talking $40, $50 million a year, more than likely. I'm talking 4 years, 120 probably, 3 years, 120, somewhere around there with incentives. There are similarities that can be drawn. However, the personnel, the psychology, the direction of the team, top down from the ownership down to the front office is an entirely different approach than the Tennessee Titans have. I think Brad Holmes is not that type of guy to just show such disregard for, well, let's be honest, guys. Since Jeff Fisher, weird to say that Jeff Fisher is the most successful coach in Tennessee Titans history, but he did lead them to a Super Bowl. Mike Vrabel is the most successful coach in Titans history outside of Jeff Fisher, right? And they fired him after 2 subpar, I'm not even going to say bad, but subpar seasons, okay? You even ended your last game at home against a hated division rival to bounce him from the playoffs, right? Like, he rallied the troops, man. He's clearly a leader of men. I just think the mentality of the organizations is entirely different. I like to think that, but as we all know, the NFL is a business and each team needs to make a profit. So let me know down in the comment section what you think. Are there any similarities you see here? And comment down below where you see Mike Vrabel landing for his next head coaching opportunity. Obviously, he's probably the hottest name for a head coaching gig in all of football. And whoever gets him, in my opinion, will be just absolutely knocking out of the park and bringing in a good character guy who can lead your team for many years to come. I hope it's not New England because I'm not a New England Patriots fan, but I am a Mike Vrabel fan. So good luck to Mike Vrabel. You hate to see it happen. It was an undeserved fire. And, that's going to do it for me. I guess that's all I really got for you guys tonight. I don't have much in the way of other news outside in the NFL because that's kind of dominating the headlines was the Mike Vrabel termination. So that's going to do it for me. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay out of trouble. Keep your stick on the ice. If he doesn't find you handsome, at least she'll find you handy. And frig off.